Hey, friends! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host, Nicole, for some hope-filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey, everybody! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and today I am very excited to have a special guest, producer and director, Brandon Clark. Welcome, Brandon!
Hey, thanks for having me.
I am so excited to have you on today and chat about your new movie.
Yeah, I am too. I'm excited for everybody to see it.
I know our listeners will be looking forward to this interview, so let's start at the beginning. Tell us how you got started in the film and TV industry, and did you become
Oh,
interested at an early age?
I did become interested in an early age. I'm sure a lot of people have heard this story now. Um, when I was like 9 years old, I'd make movies in the backyard. I was sick and twisted and
Oh,
made all
that's
my
so
friends
fun.
do it. Had my own wardrobe apartment going and different things going on in the backyard. And
Yeah,
they probably wanted to do other things, but somehow I convinced them to be part of the movies, and then they learned to enjoy them.
yeah.
So always a passion, always a love.
Hmm.
Grew up around it in the industry all my life from my family. My grandfather produced a
Yeah,
lot of the John Wayne movies, to the Goonies, to the
that's
Highlander,
awesome.
tons and tons of stuff. Legend. I learned a lot from him. A
Hmm.
lot of passion and seeing him on set too. And I was able to go to a lot of great big shows and sets to just learn right
Okay.
away. I remember just sitting there and learning from everybody as much as I could, instead of just looking at it as a cool experience. I was like studying cinematographers and everybody
Yeah,
a lot. My dad's a cinematographer, so I grew up around him a
that's
lot.
awesome.
And then I joined the unions pretty early on
Okay.
while I was in film school. So I was working on the weekends on commercials and stuff, and then sometimes TV series. I would even leave school and take on a series, and then maybe go back to school.
Hmm.
So it took me a little while to get through it. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I always had a passion and love for it, and then took off with the directing thing pretty early on, and then took a break from the industry for some other reasons, but
Okay.
came back full force, and here
That's
we are.
awesome. You're a great director, and I always enjoy your work.
Oh, thank you. That's the biggest, best blessing you could ever say, is
Of
that somebody
course.
recognizes your touch as an artist. I'm really
Yes,
blessed to
yes.
hear that.
Yeah. And I always enjoy talking to not just the actors, but the people behind the scenes too, like the directors, the screenwriters, producers, costume designers. Yeah,
That's
it's
really
always
cool.
fun.
Yeah, it everybody has a lane, and they're so crucial to the
Yeah.
entire, project as a whole, and the actual
Yeah.
big canvas of a movie, right? And I'm
Yes.
blessed that people are taking interest into that, because for so long I'm
Yeah.
like, they don't care what I'm doing. They just care about the finished product and the actors we put on the
No.
screen half the time. But there's a magic to movie making, and we always say
Hmm.
it's movie magic, but there really is.
Yeah.
The magic's in the collaboration of different
Yeah.
departments and different talents and giftings working
Yeah.
together to create one unified vision.
Yeah.
It's a very special thing to be part of, for sure.
Hmm. I've always been interested in the film industry. I took film studies and filmmaking in 10th grade, and then I took another film class in college. So I've always been interested in film.
Nice. What kind of
Yeah.
film class was it?
My first semester in 10th grade, it was film studies. So we watched a lot of old films, like I think one was
So film
Schindler's
theology.
List.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Great
And
one.
then the second semester was filmmaking. So we got to make our own films, and that was a lot of fun too.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually loved the film theology side more than the filmmaking side,
Yeah.
because I was already doing that.
Yeah.
And just the wonderful old films you get to watch. And
Hmm.
every once in a while, there might be one from my grandfather in the film class. I'm like, oh man. And I
That's
didn't say anything. I would just sit there and embrace it. I'm like, this is so cool. I hope
that's
one
awesome.
day they're using mine to teach. Yeah, it's
That
a
would be
special
that would be
thing. It's
amazing.
cool.
Who are some of your biggest influences as a filmmaker, and how have they shaped your style?
It's evolved over time, but I would
Mhm.
have to say early on, I always loved directing and everything, but I was more
Yeah.
intrigued by cinematographers because of the magic they would be able to make. They used to be considered magicians, literally,
Hmm.
because you wouldn't be able to see dailies, you wouldn't be able to see anything on monitors and stuff.
Hmm.
Everything was done on film in a way where you don't
Hmm.
get to see it till the very end. You had to trust what they were doing to
Yeah.
match shot to shot. I mean, color correction wasn't
Hmm.
even the same thing. You can save a movie so much now with technology, but lighting is
Hmm.
such a crucial, important part, shutter speed to
Yeah.
everything. And so a lot of the early guys that I studied, I was a big fan of Ford, just what he was doing with John Wayne and my grandfather for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Then I evolved into like Dr. Zhivago and all those great movies,
Wow.
to where
Yeah.
all of a sudden I fell in love with Alan Davio because he was the king of backlight as a cinematographer. And then I would
Okay.
jump on to John Toll for a little while
Mm-hmm.
and look at his stuff. And then a great friend that I met at the IATSE events, and he did Seabiscuit, and I
Okay.
kept going and following his stuff,
Okay.
and it just kind of did that. And then when Christopher Nolan did Dark Knight, I evolved again, and I started to really love what Pfister did, and so those were
Mm-hmm.
things that I wanted to really know the lens and
Yeah.
the capabilities to create as a director the mood and tone and delivery of things. A lot of times,
Yeah.
these directors, the cinematographer just saves them. I mean, a lot of first time
Mm-hmm.
directors, that's a big thing. And if you have a well
Yeah.
experienced DP, you're going to be okay. They're going to know
Mm-hmm.
composition and framing and
Yeah.
eye lines and not to stack and how to frame and how
Mm-hmm.
to block even better to the camera as opposed to the situations. But I always loved that anyway, and so I really wanted to study the cinematographers to know what I would deliver to my cinematographer for my vision.
Yeah.
Um, so that was my first start, and then I fell in love with really Scott early on because he did commercials like I did.
Mm-hmm.
I loved his work. Obviously, it's very epic now. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's
Yeah.
guys like Joe McKnight, and I all have my reasons. Like Joe McKnight, I loved from Pride and Prejudice because of his oneers and the
Yeah.
intimacy he could create in a party
Mm-hmm.
scene from dialogue to dialogue.
Yeah.
You could take multiple storylines and interlace them in a universal world.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, sorry, it's a heavy question. I have a million of them, but
Oh no, it's
and
all
then for a
good.
long, long time, I was I was a Ron Howard guy for a long time too. Loved
Yeah.
Ron's stuff. Now I've learned to take their seasons, like when they were on their epic toll, and take that
Mm-hmm.
season of each actor and then look at those masterpieces. I think we go through seasons as an artist, and they had their epic times, and so I try to study their epic times now.
That's awesome. And a lot of great people in the industry. It's always nice to have
Big
those
time. Yeah, the
influences
list could
in
go
your,
on and on.
yeah. And Seabiscuit, I haven't watched it in a long time, but that is a fantastic movie.
Yeah, and it's just beautifully shot. Well done.
Yes, definitely. What led you to Up TV and Great American Family? Did you pitch them or did they find you?
Oh wow, great question.
Nice.
So Up TV, we created a relationship kind of early on, and they were one of the first to jump on into engagement plot when we were getting into this
Yeah.
space. It was my first time
Mm-hmm.
getting into this rom com space. I'm like the
Mm-hmm.
outsider coming in here a little bit. Fell in love with the world and the fans really fast though. Hence Rama drama and
Yeah.
everything else. And
Yep.
I feel like this is an intimate family in its own way, like this
Mm-hmm.
right now, and I really love that because there's a loyalism from that. So Up TV
Mm-hmm.
jumped on from engagement plot. We ended up making a 4 picture deal, and then put out our Happy Camper right after. Rolled out Just Jake. I had met them early on from a movie that my good buddy Brian Hersinger did called Love I produced with Trevor Donovan and them,
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany Smith. We had a great time in Hawaii, and
Yeah.
that kind of led up that conversation. GAF, or Great American Family, Great American
Mm-hmm.
Media, all the above. Bill
Yeah.
Abbott himself. That came on actually from a little bit Chris was already do, and I was potentially going to Up and doing a theatrical Fathom and combo event and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw a post. I think it was Brian Bird who sent it to me, and it was a
Okay.
post that they put up for their book club, and the Little Women was on the book club, and I'm like, okay, if you guys are doing this in your book club, your fans are loving this, and you're doing it for a reason. We need to have a conversation. So I hit up a really good friend of mine, Mike Snyder, and he led up the convo. And then I went on a Zoom with GAF and Brian Williams. And next
Mm-hmm.
thing you know, Bill's like, we have to greenlight this. Once I sold the vision and everything it was, and
Yeah.
Bill was a big component and champion right away. And that started our whole relationship over there.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we're glad that you're part of the Up TV and Great American family.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean,
You're welcome.
Brian has stuff on Hallmark. I mean, we that True Brand do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Every lane. It's all about, for us more than anything, is just our whole art is to get it to
Yeah.
the masses. And if whatever platform that can provide that for our movie, so be it. Whatever it may be,
Yeah.
we just need to make it possible for our audience to see it, and that's the biggest
Yeah.
goal.
Very true. So many of our listeners are Hardys, so they know of co-creator Brian Bird. Tell us about working with him and your company, True Brand Entertainment.
I've learned over time he is Papa Hardy, and
Yes,
referred to as Papa
yes.
Hardy. I have to be honest, I never really watched What Calls the Heart.
Oh,
Only
that's
knew
okay.
the show and
Yeah,
stuff.
that's okay.
So forgive me, Hardy fans. But here and there, I've learned to champion it because it was something he was doing and loved, and the fans love
Mhm.
it too. And so I divulged into it through him and would ask him questions and everything. And as it was going on early on, and the writing season would go on. So it's been quite an experience. There's like a cross culture to the Hardy fans in our movies,
Yeah.
and then them coming on. And Dion, who wrote the original script for Little Women's Christmas, is a Hardy
Mhm.
who was at the Hardy event. So this was a nice way to nod to
That's
the Hardys
awesome.
and give a nice little thank you
Yeah.
and combine a multitude of worlds, even the True Brand fans.
Yeah, and Brian is great. And I would love the opportunity
Oh,
to talk
Brian's the
to him
best. Yeah, I mean,
someday. Yeah.
working with Brian is such a gem. He's a great man.
Mhm.
He's not only just talented in his craft, he
Mhm.
comes with scars and wounds from the industry that are good and
Mhm.
pure because it defines you as an artist and a creative. And
Yeah.
there's him and I have such great synergy. He was a great
Yeah.
champion to me coming into this, and definitely championed me and really wanted me to do Taylor's first project out of the gate on
Mhm.
Engagement Plot, and it was a good mirroring between the two of us. And I think that that was a good start to
Yeah.
this demographic and placing that. And he's got a heart to help other people in the industry and build
Mhm.
careers. It's a
Yeah.
very special thing to do.
Very true. In the process of making a movie, how often do you find the need to go back to the writer for changes? For example, are there situations where the story needs to be slightly changed to make it work within your vision?
This is a loaded question for me. um, yes, the toughest part in this industry, and maybe I need to say this boldly for people. A lot of new writers come in holding on to their baby, and it's like
Mhm.
everything. And if get something finally across the board that's going to be made, it's still their baby, right? Like it's the first time. But it takes a ton of vision
Mhm.
and a ton of people, a village obviously uses that phrase, to
Yeah.
make a movie. And the problem
Mhm.
that you have is, as a director, as a true director, you come with a vision and you're supposed to bring it to
Mhm.
life and to breath. And with that is
Yeah.
so many components. For writers in this industry, I
Mhm.
would encourage them to really find the right director, or if a director's championing you, they're championing you for a reason. That means
Mhm.
there's purpose, there's passion, and they have a vision for
Mhm.
your story. It all starts with your great idea. That's what ignites the fire. But you
Yeah.
need someone that's going to take it to the next step all the time. And the more groomed a
Mhm.
director is and more prepared they are and they're championing
Mhm.
something, they see massive potential. We've
Mhm.
had page one rewrites on some of our movies.
Wow.
I read a script that brought potential. I saw components we could use, everything from the title to all the little elements, but we need to change the entire structure of it. And that's happened. That's happened on movies you guys have seen.
Mhm.
This one coming up, I always give the writer the first shot at the rewrites, and if it comes back not quite matching the taste buds, or they don't
Yeah.
quite get the vision because that's a different world now. Now you got to
Mhm.
bring it to life. Then I'll
Yeah.
take over, or I'll have someone that I know, and I'll give them everything. If I don't have the time, they'll start to adapt
Mhm.
it. And then what I will always do is polish it. And then
Yeah.
Brian, sometimes when he's working with me, he'll do the polish, then hand it
Mhm.
to me. And then I'm writing even while we're shooting all the time. I'm
That's
changing things and
awesome.
doing things at all times. It's always an
Yeah.
instinct and a gut feeling. It's never let me down. And I
Mhm.
have to always listen to that because that's what
Yeah.
brings brevity to what we're bringing to life. It's like an unspoken
Yeah.
bond. And there's almost like, it's not almost, it's a spirituality to filmmaking. Like you have to feel that. And so
Yeah.
I change things 24/7. I've ripped script scenes right out of the script right when we're about to shoot it and rewrite it right there.
Yeah.
I did that on Just Jake. There was an issue,
Wow.
one point. This movie, I moved scenes in order on this one, added characters to A
Wow.
Little Women's Christmas. I mean, there's just something because you need some special components that uplift other voices to make other voices more powerful, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So
Yes, it
there's
definitely
just
does.
so much to it, and for me, I don't want to let a writer down. So I'd rather hurt you
Mhm.
early to give you a big career later.
Mhm.
My job is to get you the next job by doing a great job for this
Mhm.
movie and
Yeah.
taking that idea you had and letting an audience have such a great time with it and enjoy
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. That's a great outlook.
I mean, think about it. If you're a writer and you spent so much time, like Dion,
Yeah.
I think she had this idea 5 years ago, shopped it everywhere, and
Yeah.
couldn't get it through. And then when Jax pressured it because she's good friends and such a great friend to her, it
Mhm.
wasn't cohesive right away. Didn't like the notes and all the changes because Jax asked me what
Yeah.
I would do. And at first, Jax had to convince me. And then finally, I was like, okay, this is how I would do it. Because I knew there has to
Mhm.
be an understanding, and a writer has to have complete
Mhm.
faith to hand it over to you. Because at one
Yeah.
point, it's the director's at that point. It's yours.
Mhm.
Go run with it. And you got to do whatever it takes
Yeah.
to bring the best movie you can to life.
Yes.
So I get it. I get where they're coming from. There's a
Yeah.
leap of faith, but that's the cool part about this business.
Yeah, and you always wanna make a film the best it can be, or a project, really. Anything
Yes,
you do in life, you wanna make it the best it can be.
absolutely. With everything you got.
Yes. What do you think are the most important elements of filmmaking?
The most important, well, there's some biasness. It all starts with story at the end of the day.
Mhm.
You have to have a great
Mhm.
story.
Yeah.
The only problem is the medium in itself is the camera. And you have to really
Mhm.
understand the camera and the use of the camera and how you act to the
Mhm.
camera and how you adapt to the camera. And then
Mhm.
what is your actual position of angles and moves
Mhm.
and lenses and why you would light a
Mhm.
certain way? Why do you want to make this environment feel this way? How would you
Mhm.
approach the scene with the camera? Determines how you're going to
Mhm.
approach the scene with the actors to respond to the
Yeah.
camera. So, in itself, the camera is the median. We forget that sometimes, but it all
Mhm.
starts with story. So I
Mhm.
can't get away from story. Story is the most important component first. It's the roots, and then we got
Yeah.
build everything else from that. So
Yeah.
whatever we're building from, I would say is the most important because we didn't get there in the first place without it,
Yeah.
right?
It all starts with the screenwriters and their script. Before we go into A Little Women's Christmas, let's talk about Aloha with Love, the engagement plot, the happy camper, and Just Jake. So, Aloha with Love was filmed on location in Maui. As an executive producer, were you able to be on the set during filming?
As an executive producer in the position I was, yes, and I was there all
That's
the time.
awesome.
More as a creative producer,
Yeah.
there alongside Brian Hirschlinger for anything he needed and
Mhm.
suggestions, everything. I was very involved in that movie, though. Yeah.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but it was his to direct, so you just let that
Yeah.
fly. It's all his. Fun
Yeah.
experience. Had a great time with Tiffany and Trevor and the group, and
Mhm.
it's Maui. It was fun just to be there.
Yeah.
Everything was a great location.
I've never been to Hawaii, but I've heard it's a beautiful place.
It is indeed, and
Yeah.
especially where we were shooting. In fact, Lahaina was our main place and where we were
Oh,
staying and everything. And
wow.
so a lot of those places are not there anymore that we shot.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Because
it's
of
sad.
the fact, yeah,
And I have
that's
like a
really sad.
forever Hawaii family back there, by the way. Anybody who watching this, I love you all. Like just from
Oh, that's
Mahalo,
awesome.
just from that whole experience in that movie, love them
Yeah.
dearly.
It was so sad to see
Yeah,
the
yeah,
fire
and
there.
it's being deprived. I mean, I would do anything to help them, and
Mhm.
I'm excited to go back there. I
Yeah,
wrote a TV series I would love to go do back in Maui right now, and
that
it's
would be
just
awesome.
we need to go back and shoot again right now. I'm ready to go.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
As a director, what was your experience like on the set of The Engagement Plot, The Happy Camper, and Just Jake? And are there any fun memories to share from filming those movies?
Always fun memories. That's loaded right there.
Yeah.
We're doing all three in order. I'll start with the engagement plot.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Engagement plot was a great experience. It was fun because we got to shoot in the Garden of the Gods, and we had this great
Okay.
castle at Glen Erie that we used for the bachelor setting and where all the girls are staying and for the
Yeah.
bachelorette kind of thing. And even though it was called Price of Love in the
Yes.
movie.
Yeah.
And Trevor, it was the first time Trevor and I, from a director actor standpoint, working together. I mean, I was producing Aloha with Love. We became
Yeah.
friends already, and
Mhm.
but it was a great experience. Him and I had a great time. Rachel Boston was fantastic.
Mhm.
One of the fun parts of the engagement plot was getting Trevor grimy and dirty and messing him up underneath the car, like he doesn't know what he's
Yeah,
doing,
yeah.
even though the guy really would work on his truck all the time. So it's like doing the dichotomy of his real life.
Yeah, yeah.
And the dad finds him outside, and I love night shoots. And we were literally in the woods shooting this, where the
Mhm.
Corvette in a dirt road. I mean, it just makes him look like a total dum dum. And it's for us as guys and as friends, we were just having a great time with it. And these movies, you don't mess up the dudes that much. They're always like so idealistic, right? So it was kind of fun
Mhm.
for him too. And then pathetically, he's got to wake up on the couch in her house the next day. But it was a great
Yeah.
experience. There's a great crew back there that we got to work with, Larry
Yeah.
Douglas and his guys, and Access Media. They were so much fun,
Mhm.
with his son Chris Douglas, Brian Bird, and Taylor Bird. Then me and my
Yeah.
dad. So the engagement plot was no joke, a family affair. It
That's
was a
awesome.
legacy family movie to be made, and there's something special about that. We have a picture of all of us and the
That's
father
awesome.
son dynamic, and my brother Cameron was pulling focus, so it
That's
was fun.
awesome.
I
Yeah.
had my birthday during that movie, and I forgot it was my birthday. And when we wrapped, they had come out with a surprise
Aw.
cake and stuff, and it was
Yeah.
just really special. The crew was just so wonderful, and they then
Mhm.
surprised me the next day on our day off. I didn't know. Somehow I got fooled, and I don't usually do, and it was a surprise
Mhm.
party, which I'm not used
Mhm.
to getting ever. And I came around the
Yeah.
corner and was supposed to check out some backroom tie. I could give him this. He did my
Mhm.
business partner was just like convinced me to come back. You got to check this out, which is normal for him. He talks to everybody. I'm thinking, who did you talk
Yeah.
to now? Walk back there and it's like Rachel Boston and everybody all there. And we ended up having a whole night of everyone just jumping up and singing and Javen and everybody. It was awesome. It was a really cool
That's
experience.
awesome.
Engagement Plot
Yeah.
was definitely a family dynamic and a great time. It was a fun movie to be made. Um,
Yes.
and I think people really enjoyed it. I think that shows up in front of the lens. Um,
Yeah.
Happy Camper, we shot. So we kind of moved up from the Springs in Colorado up into
Mhm.
like Black Forest. And the fun part about Happy Camper is we were on a ranch the majority of the time.
Yeah.
This beautiful ranch, this wonderful family back there gave us,
Mhm.
and that was the dynamic. It was a character in
Mhm.
itself. The ranch that was her childhood
Mhm.
growing up. It's her
Mhm.
grandfather's
Yeah.
ranch. There was so many the hominess there that brought her back to who she was and her roots.
Yeah.
And that was the reflection she needed in her character. And what
Mhm.
was fun was just the dynamic of the crew fighting through
Yeah.
unbelievable weather. I mean,
Wow.
we shut down in Happy Camper at one point just because of a snowstorm that hit, and
Wow.
you can see Pikes Peak straight across from us, and it was
Oh my
unbelievably cold.
goodness.
And not only did we have to shut down because of snowstorm, I couldn't get the exterior shot of camper and everything else we got to do. And the weather was just so finicky at that point because there was like
Wow.
random storms happening so high up that we had to pivot. And literally, I walked into the house, got the whole crew down for 2 hours, rewrote, planned the day, shot the snow and leaned into it, rewrote for
Wow.
snow, got in the car, did the car driving in the Jeep in the snowstorm, had them do a snowball fight that was added to it, had the kiss happen in the most coldest weather ever in the snow with real snow falling the whole
Wow.
time in a blizzard, basically.
That's
So that
crazy.
experience was great. And then the next day was so cold, it was record breaking there for like 100 years.
Oh
We had
my
to keep
goodness.
everyone inside, lock down the sets so no one could leave, where cars had to be left there, and we would just truck back Suburbans to get everybody in and
Oh my
out. And
goodness.
it was quite an experience, but sometimes that's the
Wow.
adventure of filmmaking where
Mhm.
you roll
Yeah.
with the punches and you make the best. And we can't go back for reshoots. We only have so much time. You just got to be creative
Mhm.
and make it work. And
Yeah.
so in some ways, I don't look at it as like something going, wow, can you believe this happened? It was more that adventure made Happy Camper fun. And it was
Mhm.
very cohesive to the movie being what it was really about and the adventure of
Mhm.
life for her and stuff. So
Yeah, it
that
was
was Happy Camper. Yeah,
beautifully
thank
shot.
you.
Aw.
Um, and then and Happy Camper was heavy on the exteriors too, a little bit more than what we're
Mhm.
used to.
Yeah.
That house was a great gem to work with and everything like that.
Mhm.
Um, Just Jake was a whole different beast in its whole.
So
Um,
fun.
we shot in Castle Rock, so we moved it further down towards
Yeah.
Denver. It was like we were slowly working our way down the
Yeah.
highway from the Springs to Denver.
Mhm.
Just Jake was a great experience. Again, Larry Douglas and his crew and all the guys,
Mhm.
and so it was pretty much a family crew by the time we got to
Yeah.
Just Jake. We're on our third movie together. I think the most special part was working with my guys, Keith Warren and Eric Van Houten and
That's
Will
awesome.
Weatherly, the Bubbas. I
Yeah.
mean, they're just family, and then getting them in the room with Rob Mays to write the song "Without You,"
Mhm. Yeah.
um, and Brittany's just open heart to that, and never singing
Mhm.
in a movie, and just trusting completely the vision and what I
Mhm.
wanted to do with it. And she really did step out and go for it, and I'm
Mhm.
so blessed that she trusted me with that because she was nervous. I mean, she was really like, I don't,
Yeah.
and yet so talented in it. I mean, I remember the first time we were recording a little studio in Colorado to get her vocal side after we rewrote
Mhm.
in Nashville. But the most special time was just hanging out with my buddies at Soho and explaining the story dynamic and then
Yeah.
watching them in their gifted world of writing and going right to the studio and just laying down a song that I thought was
Mhm.
absolute fire. And it has to be the spine of the show, the movie. The whole movie's around the
Yeah.
song. So as I'm watching them write, gave me the ideas on how he would take the journey to watch him write the song throughout the movie. So
Mhm.
you're getting the pieces of the process and then the great reward
Mhm.
of what comes when a song finally comes to life completely.
Yeah.
And then Brittany was the biggest component. Having her come in to join Rob at the
Yeah.
end was huge, and to save that duet for the end was
Yeah.
everything. Um, yeah, I think that was the most special part for me and Just Jake was working with all my good buddies together and watching them in their world and then being able to personify that to what I do.
Yeah.
That's special. It's such a
Yeah.
collaborative effort.
It was such a fun movie. It was definitely my favorite non-Hallmark movie of 2023.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A special movie.
It definitely was. In Just Jake, songwriting is highly celebrated. So, can you share a little bit about your relationship with music, why it's important, and what's different about a music driven film opposed to another movie of the week?
Um, I think music is so essential in every
Mm-hmm.
movie, from the
Yeah.
composing to lifting emotion, drawing emotion away, to for leading, a fear or a component
Mm-hmm.
that you need, or uplifting love before the love crescendo hits,
Yeah.
or twinkling something and themes that you cannot explain.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ridley Scott said it was the dialogue that is missing at one point, but I believe, and I agree with him, but I believe music is the dialogue we don't know how to write. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually a universal language we don't know how to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's such
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful component that lifts us to the next level.
Yeah.
So I take it very serious in everything we do, and I try to plan it early on, even the composing side. Pick the composer before the movie begins. Who's
Mm-hmm.
right for this film? Um, and that comes down to the song. The difference between doing something like Just Jake and
Mm-hmm.
something like, A Little Woman's Christmas
Mm-hmm.
is different in the idea that when you're preparing a song that's going to be the spine of the show, you have to have it
Yeah.
completely finished and ready to
Mm-hmm.
go before you begin. Because I have to
Yeah.
utilize that throughout the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we have
Yeah.
to use that to remind us of the feeling, the tone,
Mm-hmm.
what that storyline was. And the idea
Yeah.
behind the song was in Just Jake, for example, I would sit down and go, okay, Rob, your idea is that you just can't get to the end of this song. You've written
Mm-hmm.
this far, but the reason is because you're only told your side of the story. In the
Mm-hmm.
movie, you're missing her side. And when you
Yeah.
get her side of the story and you guys come back together in that component, we're able to write this whole thing. So in a way, the song orchestrated the way we would make the movie and how we would do the movie.
Yeah.
As opposed to Little Women's Christmas, like we had Gladys Knight singing Joy and a song that William wrote for us, right? The
Yeah.
song was originally amazing. It was R&B, but I knew it needed to be a gospel song to fit the right feeling and tone. And to lace it organically into the movie differently was to have Pastor Henderson, my good buddy Javen Campbell, who played also in Engagement Plot, to
Mm-hmm.
be there with his mom, who would be
Yeah.
Gladys Knight, singing a song together at Christmas,
That's
to tie the
awesome.
storylines together and use that song. And for him to be on there with her, and to lift it into a cool gospel version. And he wrote a song rendition for Nick Jonas for Jealous that I was like, I want that. We
That's
need
great.
that high end tone gospel. We need what you did
That's
for the
great.
voice. That's what we need in this song right now.
That's
And he
great.
goes, okay. So I stuck him with Mauricio Guerrero back in LA. And then
Mm-hmm.
he had to lay down his vocals separately in Miami. We were all over the place. Then Gladys had recorded with William in LA when they were there. And
Yeah.
and then Mauricio did the instrumental arrangement and production and putting all those pieces together. But I had to be done with that
Yeah.
before we shoot it, so that I have my master to play back, something to reference.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of preparation you have to do with more music you do. And then I knew
Yes.
Tyler Michael Smith, who's Michael W. Smith's son, who's an amazing
That's
composer, was
yeah.
just the perfect person for Little Women's Christmas, because that family just lives Christmas. Not to
Mm-hmm.
mention, his wife loves this famous novel, but also lives in Franklin in this town. It was just such a cohesive marriage
Yeah.
there. And then I had him close by, so we were able to work during post constantly on cues and notations and things. And I'm like, dude, this is going to be next level, because we got to get it to
That's
the next level. You're
awesome.
so talented that I have to be hard on you right now. And
Yeah.
he doesn't even take it that way. Like, he loves notes. He takes notes and
That's
goes to the next level.
that's
And that's so crucial. And cues and timing is huge. And he's so
yeah.
good in the magical transition stuff and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
watching him, because I haven't worked with him since Happy Camper, the evolving he's done in
Yeah.
2 years, whole different planet. I mean, it's just, and you need those
Yeah.
matching taste buds of a team to match your taste buds to get to a great
Mm-hmm.
collaboration, to get that final masterpiece to feel great across the board.
And Michael W. Smith is great. I was at his Christmas tour back in 2013. I was the opening night in
See,
Murfreesboro.
Christmas.
Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Fantastic show. One of my favorite concerts I've ever been to. He's great.
He is. He's the best.
Yeah.
And his
Yeah.
son is like version 2.0, up and lifted,
Yeah.
man.
Yes.
Yeah, from a composing sense. Michael's the performer, no doubt.
Yeah.
Tyler is a super talented composer,
Mm-hmm.
and I can speak to him in a different level. I just really
Yeah.
appreciate the work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this was meant for him. This project was meant for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have a favorite music-driven movie that you can think of?
Personally, ooh, that's tough. There's a lot. Um, Actually, I'm gonna go wild here. I think no one would expect. I think Top Gun was the original Top Gun was actually
Okay.
brilliant. Tony
I
Scott and what he did with Top Gun and Kenny Loggins, and I know it sounds crazy
wow.
and off kilter, but if you
No,
think about that movie, you could hear just components of that music and watch Maverick and not have to see as much to relate to
it's
it.
great.
The music alone will bring you into nostalgia from the original.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you know you
Yeah.
have a movie that surpasses time with music.
Very true. I think my favorite, now I haven't seen every single music-driven movie right off the top of my hat. If I could think of one, probably Pure Country
Pure
with George
country. I don't
Strait.
know. Oh,
With
I
George
haven't seen that.
Strait. It's great.
Okay. Wow. I haven't seen that.
So next week, Great American Family will premiere A Little Women's Christmas. What drew you to this project and what made it a film you wanted to direct?
Uh, what drew it to me, I mean, I had read the script and we did
Mhm.
a team meet and greet up with a bunch of
Yeah.
actors on a that I emceed in Colorado while Jax had
Hmm.
pushed for, and great
Yeah.
job, Jack McCollier, who I love dearly.
Yes.
Um, it was when I had really when she asked me the question of what would you do, and it took me about 4 minutes. But once I had taken that breath and figured out what I would do with
Hmm.
making an ensemble, develop the voices of characters more, add in
Hmm.
omnipresent spirit of Christmas touch to it,
Hmm.
link in music and a high development and a big opening and ending, and bring in it's a writer's story, so an opening and ending storybook, opening and ending, like A Wonderful Life
Yeah.
meets the ensemble and music of Love Actually in a
Hmm.
way. At a modern take of Little Women, I'm like, okay, now I'm in.
That's
That was
awesome.
the component when I finally was like, this is what I would do, and go.
Hmm.
That's when I was sold on it, and then everything else just follows. Once you got that passion and that conviction,
Hmm.
everything else follows right into place.
Those two movies you mentioned, It's a Wonderful Life and Love Actually, I've never seen either of those, but it's so awesome that you have incorporated those into the movie.
Now you have a job to do.
I have homework to do.
I'll watch George Strait. You watch that.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So, A Little Women's Christmas was filmed on location in Franklin, Tennessee. What do you enjoy most about on location shooting, and what are some of the challenges that go along with it?
I love being on location because of the adventure of it, and
Hmm.
I also like the purity of it, as opposed to
Hmm.
having build out all the sets. Now,
Yeah.
building out sets allows you to break walls and do things in position you can't do when you're on location. But
Yeah.
being on location allows the travel and the adventure.
Hmm.
There are its components where it requires a lot of configuring to fit into tight quarters. Like
Hmm.
Main Street's not very big at Franklin, and so
Uh,
where we put trucks, how we travel, getting down
mhm.
the main road, keeping crews safe, where we permit, how we close
Yeah.
streets, and then on like A Little Women's Christmas, we had fanfare everywhere, like the whole time.
That's
So
awesome.
my biggest thing was not to kick them out. Like, I normally we would just move them because they're in the
Yeah.
shot. I mean, there was multiple times I changed the shot because of all the fans, and I was like, I want them to take part of this journey.
Hmm.
So I'm not gonna selfishly take this single on Trevor
No, of
here and do this.
course.
I just changed it. I was like, you know what? Even though that would be my coverage and my list and what I want, I'm gonna do this because this is a greater story for their journey, and I can live with this and get what I need from the scene.
Yeah. And Franklin is a beautiful town. I've been
Beautiful
there
town.
a couple times. Yeah.
It was probably
Mhm.
the easiest town, tightest town in quarters to shoot in, but yet the easiest town to shoot in by the people and the help and the support that Franklin brought. Every shop owner to the city of Franklin and how they
Yeah.
put out articles and news stuff right away to give us
Hmm.
space and leadway. I
Yeah.
mean, that was special. It helped us a
Yes.
lot.
Yeah. My dad is a singer-songwriter or a musician, so he has a lot of friends in the industry in Nashville. So one of the most recent times we went to Nashville, we drove into Franklin and spent a couple hours there. So fun.
Nice. Yeah, Franklin's
Yeah.
a special city for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the other thing is that's where the rewrite comes in. I rewrite for the actual
Yeah,
shooting script of the locations and places we use. So we used everybody's real locations to and their
that's
titles and their
awesome.
names, their stores. Yeah.
That's so cool. Do you have a favorite scene and set from this movie that we can look out for while watching?
Yeah. My favorite scene is in the Stable Reserve coffee shop. And
Okay.
it's when it's just Joe and Fritz, Gillian Murray, and Trevor Donovan sitting there. It's very simple. This movie I approached in composition a little bit differently. I almost like everything was a picture, a family photo in a way.
Okay.
Or if you're an obstructive photographer, how would you shoot the frame to be the master, right?
Mhm.
Um, and it's just simple. It's just a two shot that I love so much. And the way that we blended the lights around the
Yeah,
window and looking out, and there's so much depth, and you see the Franklin Theater behind it with A Wonderful Life on
that's
the
awesome.
marquee, and the two of them, and the intimacy of it, and the color
Yeah.
and toning, and the feeling of it. It's a real low shot on purpose. Even
Mhm.
the singles are low, and that scene in itself, and how she just leaves him with a kiss on the cheek, and it leaves him hanging in shock,
Mm.
going, "What did I do?" They're finally clicking and at a different level, and obviously falling in love, but there is still the behind story lingering for Fritz's
Mhm.
side of the story. And I think it's just one of those great moments. It's the innocence before
Mhm.
you know all the truths, and then leads us to why we all need a little bit of grace.
Mhm. Yeah, very true. I can't wait to see that scene. I'm sure it is beautifully shot, like the whole movie. I know will be.
And my favorite set, I don't know, set would probably either be the church or the New York. I love the New York style thing we went for, like very
Yeah.
modern push of things, and kind of like a Google friendly ecosystem in this
Mhm.
publisher, boutique publisher in a big city kind of style.
Yeah.
But I would say probably the church because the Gladys Knight and the Christmas event and all
Mhm.
that stuff, and it's a big endeavor.
Yeah. I always love church scenes in movies. They're always beautifully done.
Well, I hope you love this one.
Yes, I'm sure I will. And you mentioned Gladys Knight. What was it like working with such an icon or legend in the music industry?
Probably one of the best experiences ever. She's so
That's
sweet,
awesome.
so kind, absolute professional. Even we had a tough thing where the lyrics were not matching to the tone, and we don't have time to go clear
Hmm.
that, bring it back. It's only so much time you have with her. So I gave her a live mic, and I just whispered, and she was still humming in my ear and singing the song to me in the ear because she would
That's
still
awesome.
practice it because she was still trying to know the words. And I
Yeah.
said, if you see it on the screen, just rip it back. It's your live mic. Give me what you got, what you want
Yeah.
to do. And we ended up keeping all that live mic recording, and then we made our own
Wow.
song of the live version mixed with the master that you hear in the movie.
Wow.
And it's live. You can
That's so
tell.
cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
She's fantastic. I've grown up on that decade of music, like the 70s, because of my dad. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a big 70s music fan.
Oh, well, that's
She's
awesome.
great. Yeah.
She is. She's awesome and
Yeah.
still kicking. I mean, she does 100 shows a year right now. It's just
Wow.
insane. Yeah,
That is that's crazy, but so cool.
it is. She's a
If
force to be reckoned with for sure. That's true talent.
yes. If you had to choose one scene or moment from this film that encapsulates your style as a director, what would it be and what makes it special to you?
Hmm. I think after the church scene, I did something where we have multiple, very Joe McKnight esque or Pride and Prejudice esque.
Okay.
Is I drifted from one conversation to the next conversation, and multiple layers are happening at the same time. You're seeing John and Meg leave right out, and Lori and Amy leave, and it just passes to Joe
Yeah.
and Beth, and then they're interrupted by Ben. And I did it all on steady, and we actually shot the two things together, even though it's cut and stuff, but for it to feel like it was intimate, like it was all happening at
Yeah.
once. And so I even the overs and everything like that, but then I would shoot a master
Yeah.
where we move all the way to Trevor, single on Trevor, and
Wow.
Jillian and them had to
Yeah.
pick up their scene, right? So it never
Hmm.
stopped the flow of that. And
Wow.
I wanted it to
Yeah.
feel like it was all happening at once. So the only way
Hmm.
to organically do that was to shoot all at once. Now I could have just shot
Hmm.
that and shot that because we're going to cut it, but it's more to my style, and especially when you're interlacing
Hmm.
a multitude of
Yeah.
stories together, and to feel that like
Yeah.
it was all part of it at the same time, felt like that was the best way. And
Yeah.
there's so many layers to things that are happening, and then the way that it's shot for the approach of Trevor coming to her,
Hmm.
and then her finally saying, well, thank you for doing that to me, and now she's accepting him, and it's like
Hmm.
they finally went closer, and then she leads him into a walk, and then she's about to vent her life story outside you're about to see and reflect on the sisters and what's going to be
Yeah.
behind what she's actually going to write. So I would
Yeah.
say that scene represents my style to this story
Okay.
more than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I always love when a director films like one shot, like you were talking about. It's great.
Yeah, oneers are necessities when they're
Yeah.
right, you know?
Yes.
I did
Yes.
a oneer master for Jillian and Laura Osnes.
Okay.
So it was Joe and Beth in the bedroom, and it's just a oneer, but it's an intimacy.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it just drew it, and you knew it was the right time, the right
Yeah.
place for that scene.
Yes. And this is such a fantastic ensemble cast. What was it like working with not only Trevor, but Jillian, Jen, Jesse, Laura?
A bowl of personalities, and
Yeah.
to each their own, and they all
Yeah.
brought it for me. I'm so
Yeah.
grateful, but it just takes a very strategic way to speak to each
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest strategy of it all. How I approached Jillian, and Jillian brought the independence and beautiful
Yeah.
nature of Joe's character and the chemistry with Fritz. And
Mm.
she was a warrior for me on this movie. And then
Mhm.
you have Jen Lilly, who's just awesome and a leader and a nurturer and the
Mhm.
mother figure like Meg is.
Yeah.
And she
Mhm.
brought it to the table and
Yeah.
she example on set with that. And then you have the
Mhm.
wonderful Laura Osnes, who had to step back a little bit in a new character that's not as brilliant and bright, even though she's
Mhm.
Miss Broadway herself, right? But
Yeah.
shows her range and her ability. But yet the music side is there, and the loving nature in her came out very, very fast in that character. And how she helps foster kids, and just
Mhm.
a
It's
nurturing
amazing.
side and the worship side of her too, which was
Yeah.
wonderful. And then you have the innocence and serenity of Julia Riley
Jul
playing
Yeah.
Amy, and what
Julia's great.
Julia brought to the table and the hunger she had to be better every day. And
Yeah.
that was really in the strife of being the youngest of the March sisters. So the
Yeah.
cohesiveness was so beautifully there that I couldn't ask for anything more. And then from the men's side, it's Trevor, and we have our relationship, but he really, he let me push him, and he brought it. I think it's his best performance, and he brought a new culture to a Fritz character I think people have expected. And
Yeah.
for him, a new approach to a character he's never done. And
Yeah.
at the same time, Jesse was in a challenge of playing a smaller role, but a very, very significant role. So every scene he's in is so incredibly crucial to how Meg reacts and how the whole story
Mhm.
comes together. And
Mhm.
Jesse was just magnificent. We didn't have much time. So when he's there, it's like, you got to
Yeah.
do it. And he was so well tuned that he could just show up and get it done for me and bounce out. Um, I mean, it's a plethora of actors and people put together, and it really
Yeah.
brought together the
Yeah.
ensemble, which was
Yeah.
so important. That's what this
Yeah.
movie was about. And I think you could have a movie with a ton of great actors and have a really bad
Mhm.
movie. I think the
Mhm.
key is them being right for the role at the right moment, the
Mhm.
right time for that significance that they bring that voice alive to that character to interact with the other characters.
Mhm.
And when they're great actors, then it'll shine out in the story and
Yeah.
uplift it.
This is such a fantastic ensemble cast, and I'm excited to see their dynamic in this movie.
I'm excited for you to see it.
Yeah. What is a classic Christmas movie that would pair well with A Little Women's Christmas or a movie night?
That would pair well. Well, okay. A Wonderful Life, because I keep saying that.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
Definitely would. We have the DJ Bob character, may or may not be somebody you know. Omnipresent,
Yeah.
your own, maybe the Spirit of Christmas, maybe Santa, maybe an angel, for each to figure out on their own.
Yeah.
There's a wink wink to Santa's sleigh and the red portion stuff. There's the angel wings that we get a touch of, through uh, John Brooks' character and his daughter, which Jesse Hutch's daughter plays his daughter, which is so special and so awesome.
Yeah, that's
Charlize
really
did a
cool.
wonderful job. It's a great introduction to her. I would say that's probably the best pairing. But if you want something a little bit later down the road, it's tough. We haven't had a huge family dynamic Christmas movie.
Okay.
This is a little different.
No, that's
Uh,
okay.
yeah, I mean, I'd say that's the best pairing from
Yeah.
the side of it. If you did it in conjunction with I know it sounds wild, but like maybe The Preacher's Wife or Serendipity,
Okay. Okay.
there's
Yeah.
little touches of those, not all the way through.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
Love
of course.
Actually, for
Yeah.
ensemble.
There's some great Christmas movies out there in the
Oh
world.
yeah, for sure.
For anyone whose first introduction to your work is A Little Women's Christmas, what would you like people to take away from this film?
To be honest with you, I hope this film brings joy. Hence the song "Joy." the
Mhm.
message of the movie Joy. And again, to a quote that Jillian Murray says as playing Joe March is, "We all need a little grace from time to time." And I hope that that brings that spirit out for the Christmas season for everybody.
I hope so too. I'm sure that it will. At the end of my interviews, I always ask my guests to share an inspiring quote or piece of advice. So, do you have an inspiring quote or piece of advice you would like to share?
Oh, I have a lot of inspiring quotes, but I think my piece of advice that I could share right now is that love is the strongest of all things.
Yep. That's very true. I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much, Brandon, for taking the time to come on. I had such a great time chatting with you today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. And everyone, make sure to go check out A Little Women's Christmas premiering Saturday, November 23rd at 8, 7 Central on Great American Family. All right,
Yes.
everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
I will
Thank
see you
you.
next time. Bye. All right, everyone. I think that concludes my interview with Brandon Clark. If you enjoyed this episode and are watching on YouTube, you can like this video and share your favorite movie directed by Brandon and what you are looking forward to most about A Little Woman's Christmas in the comments. If you are listening on Spotify, make sure to rate and review, as your feedback is always greatly appreciated. If you want to stay up to date on all of my episodes, you can subscribe to this channel on YouTube or follow along on Spotify, and make sure to turn on the bell so you are alerted when new episodes come. You can also find the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Swing My Heart Podcast and Twitter at Swing My Heart Pod. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world, and I will see you next time. Love y'all. Bye.